Hello from the Dukascopy TV studios in Geneva. I'm Sam Meredith, and today we're discussing the fluctuating oil prices and the Russian equity market with Miss Anastasija Vlasova, Director with FGP Capital. Welcome to the studios, Anastasija.
Hi there.
So, firstly, how would you describe the performance of the Russian equity market, and comparing that to global markets? What would you say there?
Well, let me throw a question back to you, because it's a very common mistake people make, and I just want to check if I don't want to be sounding like a professor, but let me just try to see where you think the Russian market is year to date, taking into account everything you read in the press.
Yes, which is all very negative.
Yes.
If you're going
so if you were to, just a wild guess, year to date, Russian equity market, down, up, down?
I'd have to assume, yes, certainly negative.
Down.
Yeah.
How much? Wild guess?
5 to 10.
5 to 10, not bad. Okay, now can we see the graph where all the markets are and where Russian equity market is? Now that gives you a picture of where all the world equity markets are year to date in American dollars. So the last column is the year to date performance. So you can see everything is red, everything is it's terrible this year. And the only two blips on the horizons where there's a little greenish is the flat Russian market, number 30, plus 0.15, and the Nikkei, hooray. And the rest is horrible. So the minus 10%, this is FTSE. These are the likes. I mean, this was before Volkswagen came up with the news. Now DAX is down even further. So strangely enough, and I know it sounds very counterintuitive, but the Russian equity market year to date is probably in relative terms one of the best performing markets. It's counterintuitive, but it's a fact looking at these hard numbers in dollars. I mean, versus Dow Jones, Euro Stocks, Nikkei, and the rest. And a part of it can be explained that the bulk of the negative performance came at the end of last year. So this year, Russian equity market went down, then it up, and then it went down again, but year to date we're flat. And so essentially, if you were holding Russia in your portfolio, Russian equities in your portfolio since the beginning of the year, you haven't lost money, which is, in this terrible year for equity markets, it's not a bad thing.
Yes. Okay. Well, what about the Russian ruble? Now we've seen this hit new lows. Oil prices are tumbling even further. So, in context, how important will commodities be for emerging markets?
Okay. Well, I always said that, yes, let's have a look at where Russian ruble is and where its performance is year to date. And again, this is interesting because you would again assume that Russian ruble is down a huge amount. And yes, it's down. It's down 12%. It's done better than the South African rand, than the Colombian peso, the Turkish lira, the Brazilian real, okay? And essentially what actually this graph also shows, which is a very interesting graph, it tells you where all the currencies are year to date. And you can see that obviously the bulk of underperformance come from emerging market currencies. And all these currencies are from countries which are commodity producers. And essentially, if you are a commodity producer this year with the commodity prices being down, let's have a look actually at the next slide where you can see where the commodities are year to date. Now this is energy, metals, agriculture. And again, year to date, you don't have anything in green. Everything is between 4 and 30%. So with all the commodities prices down so much, it is absolutely normal that the currencies of these countries are down, and it has a very big impact on the economy of these countries. Now, as far as Russia goes, Russia's linked very much to oil. I always said that, tell me where the price of oil is, I'll tell you where the Russian equity market is. Now, surprisingly, you did see that the Russian equity market was flat, but though the oil is down, the WTI is down 15% and the Brent 17%. The reason why equity market did not quite follow the the crude was because, again, at the end of last year, we did have this major underperformance of the market, so it actually went up further, and then we can probably see it later in the graph, like how Russian equity market is linked to the oil. But I would say that generally all the emerging market countries are commodity producers, their currencies are down, and Russia is just part of them.
Okay, so what about the investors' reaction to this? I mean, these oil prices, like you say, they've been tumbling, and are their perspectives changing towards the equity market in Russia as well?
Well, let's go back to the graph just to see where the oil is. So if you're an investor in the Russian market, you do have to have a view on oil. This is a very long dated graph going back to 96, and it gives you a very good correlation between the Russian equity market and the oil. So if you positive about oil, I think as an investor, then you can be positive about the Russian equity market. Now, what are the perspectives of that people have for oil? There are two things. First, there is a situation which is currently where there is a very vast supply of oil in the world. And this is due to the fact that the OPEC decided not to cut production. There are minor problems in Libya and Nigeria with production, but you can't really say that there are disruption in production, major disruption in production somewhere in the world. And mainly, Iran is about to become a very big producer again. And this is what's been driving the oil price down big time. And with this, you have plenty of oil around, so why would anybody bid it up short term? There is oil around. But on the other hand, at current prices of oil, there is a study that I saw from Baker McKinsey with a figure from memory, $1.7 trillion of projects which has been frozen by oil companies globally this year. And it's a huge figure, and you have to remember that the oil industry is always a long lag industry, so whatever has been decided now, you will see the results on the longer term. So what we saw after the financial crisis of 2008, we saw the results. That's why the oil prices have been holding up so well, is that in 2008, the oil companies have cut so much that the results have been felt 5 years later. And I think we're in exactly the same situation now, because there are so many projects which are being frozen, and there's going to be not enough, in a way, oil in several years. With the world continuing growing, with China continuing growing, whether it's 6 or 7% versus 10, but there is still growth in the world. There is no alternative to oil find. So I would say, personally, I find it very hard to be pessimistic about the prospects of oil in the next 12 to 24 months. And I would say oil should be higher, and hence the Russian market should be higher as well. It's a personal view. I've seen Russian oil companies at these levels only 2 or 3 times in my career during big crises. And for me, on the long term, I remain optimistic about Russia and about Russian equity market.
Anastasija, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Do stay with Dukascopy for more exclusive interviews and updates. We'll see you next time.